One of the disciples approached Jesus, frustrated and desperate. He said, "Master, I have done what you taught. I ask, I pray, I plead with the Father, but nothing happens. I ask and I don't receive. The promise doesn't work for me. What am I doing wrong?" Jesus looked at him with that patient expression he used to have when someone was letting slip something fundamental. He said, "Are you asking wrong? It's not wrong words. It's wrong frequency, wrong awareness, wrong understanding of what asking really is." The disciple was confused, but I am following prayers. I am being humble. I am asking sincerely. And Jesus answered, "That's exactly the problem. You're asking as if you don't have. You're begging like a separate human, hoping that an external God will decide to give you something. That's not asking, that's pleading. And pleading doesn't activate the system." The disciple asked, "What system?" And Jesus said, "There is a system. The monad responds to a specific type of request. There is no begging, no pleading, no hope that an external deity will take pity on you. It responds asking from already possessing, from alignment with the source, from the recognition of what you are. When you ask in this way, no one decides whether or not to give it to you. This releases what is already yours by nature. Asking and receiving is not petitioning, and perhaps it is claiming and automatic, but only if you know how to ask in the way I am teaching now, in the way that religious authorities will never teach. Because if they knew this, they wouldn't need priests interceding for them. This teaching was systematically removed from the Bible. The church kept the verse, "Ask and you shall receive." But it removed all the teaching about how to ask, how often, what awareness, what recognition needs to be present for the request to really work. Because if Christians knew that there's a specific system music, a mechanism of asking that produces consistent results when operated correctly, they would stop waiting for God to perhaps answer prayers and would start operating as a monad consciousness, claiming what is already available. And the church could not allow that. You asked for things your whole life and nothing happened, or things manifested randomly, inconsistently, unpredictably, like luck or coincidence. Sometimes prayers seemed to work, most of the time they didn't. And they told you that it was because God said so. No, either because it wasn't His will, or because you didn't have enough faith, or because you needed to wait for His time. But something inside you always knew that this didn't make sense. Why would Jesus promise, "Ask and you shall receive," if receiving is rare and random? This happens because you were taught to ask as a separate human, begging an external God for favors. And that is not the asking that Jesus taught. Jesus taught that asking is man recognizing what already exists in the infinite source and aligning consciousness to receive. There is a specific and systematic way of asking that works every time, not because you are manipulating God, but because you are operating in the way that consciousness and manifestation truly work. The monad has mechanisms, and when you know them, asking becomes claiming and receiving becomes automatic. The church hid this teaching for 2,000 years because if you knew how to ask correctly, you wouldn't need them to intercede. You wouldn't need priests praying on your name. You wouldn't need religious rituals to win God's favor. You would be direct, sovereign. Asking is from the monad, and receiving comes from the source in a consistent, predictable way. Music. And this makes institutional religion obsolete. Tonight you are learning exactly the system of asking and receiving that Jesus taught. The 3 parts that need to be present: how it works, why it works, and how to use it from tonight onward to ask correctly and receive what you are asking for. Not expecting, but knowing. If you are learning the monad system of asking and receiving tonight, comment now. I ask as a monad. You asked, prayed, requested. God, please give me this. Please help me with that. Please heal this. Please provide that. Please make the situation work. And most of the time, nothing. Silence. Or worse, the opposite of what you asked for happened. Things got harder. The prayers seemed to hit the ceiling, and religious people said it was because God said no, or because it wasn't His will, or because the answer wasn't the right time, or because you didn't have enough faith, or because there were unconfessed sins blocking your prayers, or because you needed to pray more for longer with more sincerity. But something inside you always knew that this didn't make sense. Because Jesus would say, "Ask and you will receive. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. If the real experience is asking and generally receiving nothing, this happens because the asking you were taught is not the asking Jesus taught. You were taught to ask like a small, separate, unworthy human, waiting for a great external God, sitting on a throne, to decide if you're worthy enough, sincere enough, faithful enough to receive what you're asking for. That is not asking, that is begging. And begging does not activate the monad system. Begging is consciousness of lack being transmitted. I don't have, I need, I am desperate. And consciousness creates reality. Consciousness of lack creates more lack. You ask from I don't have, and reality reflects I don't have. That's why it doesn't work. Not because God said no, but because you are operating the system wrong. The church never taught that there's a specific way to ask that works and a way that doesn't. It only taught to ask humbly, to have faith, to be sincere, and to wait for God to answer in his mysterious time, according to his unknowable will. But Jesus taught the chosen ones a system, a mechanism, a specific consciousness, a specific frequency, a specific recognition that needs to be present so that asking produces receiving. It's not a mystery. God doesn't act in mysterious ways. It's systematic. Ask from this frequency with this recognition, in this alignment, and receiving is automatic, not because you deserved it, not because God decided that you deserve it, but because you're operating the system correctly. That is like knowing a password. If you know it, access is granted every time, not because the system likes you, but because that's how access systems work. The monad has a system, and if you know how to ask within that system, receiving random divine favor is an inevitable systematic result. The church hid this because pneumatic beings who know the system don't need interceding priests. They don't need church rituals. They don't need religious performance. They ask directly as a monad and receive directly from the source. And this makes the entire institutional structure obsolete. You don't need them anymore, and they couldn't allow that. Jesus made a distinction that the church completely erased between asking and begging. Begging is what they taught you. Please, God, I need this. I'm desperate. Can you give me this if it's your will? This is a separate human being, petitioning an external authority. Asking the way Jesus taught is a claim based on recognition. You are not asking for something you don't have. You are aligning consciousness with what already exists in the infinite source. The monad is not a person deciding whether to grant favors. It is infinite consciousness. Everything already exists within it. When you ask correctly, you are not convincing God to create something new. You are aligning yourself with what already is. It is not petition, it is alignment. The system has 3 parts. All 3 are necessary. You cannot skip any. First, ask from what you already have, not from what you lack. You were taught to ask from need. God, I don't have this. Please give it to me. This is consciousness of lack, and lack creates more lack. Jesus taught the opposite. At Lazarus' tomb, before commanding him to rise, he said, Father, I thank you because you have already heard me. Time past is done. No, please, perhaps I will resurrect him, but I recognize that the totality already is. This frequency shift from I don't have to I already is changes everything. Consciousness creates reality. I don't have creates not having. Already is creates manifestation. Second, ask as a monad, not as a separate human. When you ask as a small human being separate from God, you are in a wrong identity. Wrong identity cannot access what is available to the true identity. Jesus taught to ask from the recognition that you and the source are one. No, I am here small and needy. You are there great and powerful. But I am the consciousness of the monad. I and the Father are one. I am accessing what is already within the source, which is what I am. This is not arrogance. It is recognition of the real nature. And when you ask as a monad, you are not begging an external source. You are claiming internal access to what is yours by nature. Petition becomes a claim. Third, receive immediately in consciousness and allow the material form to follow. Most people ask and then wait to see if it will manifest before believing they have received. This breaks the system. You return to lack. I ask, but I still don't see. So I don't have it. Jesus taught the opposite. Receive first in consciousness. The moment you ask correctly, starting from already having it as a monad, you receive it not yet materially, but in consciousness you know you already have it. And this knowing allows the material form to follow. The material follows consciousness, not the other way around. You don't wait for proof to believe. You receive in consciousness. You know it's done, and you observe the manifestation. Consciousness first, material later. This works because you are operating the mechanics correctly. The monad is not a person with preferences. It is consciousness, and consciousness responds to consciousness. When you transmit lack, I don't have it. Reality mirrors lack. When you transmit already having it, I recognize that it exists. I am a monad accessing. I receive now. Reality mirrors this. It's mechanical. Frequency creates corresponding manifestation. Jesus understood this completely. He never begged God to perhaps heal someone. He recognized that the totality already is. He received it in consciousness and spoke of it in the form of being healed because he had already received it in consciousness. That is the system. And the church removed him because people who operate the system don't need priests interceding. They ask as monads, receive in consciousness, and observe the manifestation. Direct, sovereign. The moment you change from asking as a separate human, begging an external God, to asking as a monad, recognizing what already exists in the source, everything changes immediately. You stop feeling desperate when you ask. You stop anxiously wondering if God will say yes or no. You stop waiting in painful suspense to see if your prayers will be answered. You ask from recognition that it already exists in the infinite source. You receive immediately in consciousness, knowing that it is done completely yours. And then you calmly observe the material form appear, not expecting to appear, but knowing that it will appear, because you have already received where it matters in consciousness. And the material form always follows consciousness. It is not optional, it is systematic. You are no longer in the vibration of lack, desperately wanting something you don't have. You are in the vibration of receiving, knowing that you already have it in consciousness, and observing material reality achieve it. And this shift in vibration from lack to already having is what allows manifestation. You're no longer blocking with the frequency of, I don't have it. You're allowed with the frequency of, it's done. Reality needs to match that. It's mechanical, and the biggest change is that manifestation ceases to be random luck or unpredictable divine favor, and becomes a systematic result you can trust. When you asked wrongly, from a place of lack, as a separate human, expecting an external God to decide if you were worthy, the results were inconsistent, random. Sometimes something happened, and you thought maybe God had answered. Most of the time, nothing happened, and you thought maybe God had said no, or not yet. It seemed like a lottery, a mystery. But when you ask correctly, using the system, starting from already having, as mon, receiving immediately in, consciousness, receiving music becomes predictable, not because you control God, but because you are aligned with the actual workings of consciousness. Consciousness creates reality. When consciousness sustains it already is, the manifested reality already is every time. This is not positive thinking. Music is mechanics. And when you understand the mechanics, when you operate the system correctly, the results cease to be random and become consistent. You ask correctly and always receive. Not because you're special, but because the system works the same for everyone who operates it correctly. That's what Jesus was teaching. Not to beg and expect God to like you enough to answer, but to operate the system and receive systematically. And the church completely buried this teaching. Only pneumatics can operate the system of asking and receiving in the way Jesus taught. Hylics cannot ask as a monad because they do not possess monad consciousness to ask from it. They are purely material, without a spark, without access. Psychics may stumble upon this occasionally. They may have moments when they ask from a higher consciousness and something manifests, but they cannot sustain it. They cannot remain at that frequency, but you, pneumatic, possess a complete divine blueprint. When you ask from already having as a monad, receiving immediately in consciousness, you are not pretending to be something you are not. You are not simulating spiritual advancement. You are operating from your true nature. You are a monad express in form. This is not affirmation. It is recognition of what you truly are. So, asking as a monad is not acting, it is truth. And the moment you recognize this truth, the system activates naturally, automatically. You don't need to force, nor deserve, nor build. This is your design. You were built to ask as a monad and receive from the source. This is a pneumatic function. And when you activate this, receiving ceases to be a mystery and becomes mechanical, a warning. When you start asking correctly and things start manifesting consistently, when people see that what you ask for happens reliably, they will accuse you of arrogance, of thinking you deserve it, of trying to control God, of playing God, of spiritual ego. Ignore it completely. You are not controlling anything. You are aligning yourself with the workings of the system. You are not manipulating God. You are operating mechanics. This is not arrogance. It is understanding. It's like someone accusing you of arrogance for knowing how to use a door. Do you think you are special just because you can go through doors when you want? That's absurd. You are not special for knowing how doors work. You just know the mechanics. The same goes for the system of asking and receiving. You are not special. You just know how it works. And knowing how it works allows you to use it. This is not playing God. This is operating as a monad, which is what you are. This is a system of asking and receiving that Jesus taught, and that the church completely removed from Christianity. 3 parts, all necessary. Asking from already having, not from lack. Asking as a monad, not as a separate human. Receiving immediately in mind, and allowing the material manifestation to follow. That is the system. Not petitioning, and perhaps not begging, and waiting for God to decide if you are worthy. It is alignment and automatic recognition and receiving. And when you operate it correctly, receiving is not random divine favor, depending on whether God likes you today. It is a systematic result dependent on you operating the mechanics correctly. The monad is not withholding anything from you. You are blocking yourself with asking wrongly, a consciousness of lack, a separate identity, waiting for material proof before believing you have received. Correct these 3 things. Ask from what you already have. As a monad, receive now in consciousness. And receiving becomes inevitable. The church hid this for 2,000 years because pneumatics who know the system don't need intercession. They ask, they receive directly, consistent, sovereign. And that makes the church obsolete. If you're going to use the monad system of asking and receiving from, tonight, do 3 things. Now, first, comment below. I ask as a monad, declare that from. Now on you are operating the system correctly. Second, subscribe to Divine Codes for advanced teachings on asking for music from already having, receiving in consciousness, and allowing consistent manifestation. Third, like this video so that other. Pneumatics discover the system that Jesus taught and that the music church buried. Do all 3 now. Then, tonight ask for something specific, but don't ask from lack. Don't beg. Ask from the recognition that it already exists in the infinite source. Ask as a monad. You and the source are one. You are accessing what is already available, and receive immediately in consciousness. Know that it is done. Feel as complete. Don't expect to see it materially before believing you have received it. Receive now in consciousness and watch the material reality adjust. You are no longer begging.